Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Hangout with Busayo. And before we move further, I just want to appreciate Miss Palace for giving us this spot to use. Everybody just look beautiful and awesome. Don't forget, they are one of the best in Jos Plateau State. They have a cinema, they have good restaurant, we're in the coffee lounge enjoying ourselves. Man, after that, you're gonna pick a cup of coffee, get and enjoy yourself. And yes, we will be discussing about gender-based violence today. I know when we talk about gender-based violence, we are not trying to limit ourselves to only rape or any other thing that you may come to your mind at first, but we'll be talking about everything as much as we can this day to make sure that we throw more light on some issues that are really coming up. Looking at the trend of things, we have every day you get news about child molestation, even in terms of sexual abuse, down to battery and other things that have been trending in the news. But today we'll just talk about it a little, and I have someone with me in the studio. She will introduce herself and give her the full rules of her name. Just be careful, listen.
Thank you, Busayo, for having me on this program today. My name is Yit Kim Leah Datong, and I'm a lawyer as well as an activist. I focus on sexual and gender-based violence, and so this is the perfect opportunity for me to discuss with you, learn from you, and then share some knowledge as well.
Okay, it's time for us to go straight down into business, and I would just want you to give us an overview about gender-based violence.
Okay, gender-based violence simply refers to any form of violence or discrimination targeted at a person because of their gender, simply because of their gender. As we know, gender is a social construct, and it refers to attitudes and habits that are associated with a particular sex. So it's either like the attitudes or the characteristics of female, biological females or biological males.
Okay, and let's just go. I would want to pick it up from this example I'm about to state. Okay, last month we had it was trending on the news where a man allegedly killed his fiancée, and it was really the site was a gory site where we had from the news, from the report from the police, we saw pliers, we saw some other things in the room where this lady was murdered. What would you say is responsible for such thing against the female? And also I would also cite another example about a 13-year-old boy that was really I don't know how the right word to use, but if you check on the news, look at his body, you see pressing iron, spots and different things, wounds and all on his body. What would you say is responsible for this kind of outrageous or something that's really eating down deep our fabric as a nation?
In terms of rape, any form of sexual violence is more about control, is more about power, is more about entitlement to a person's body or to a person's conduct, or just generally trying to dominate someone else. And then it's easier to dominate women and children because when we begin to discuss the play of power and strength and all in such situations, you would realize that the person who usually carries out such violent act rather is more powerful or in a place of influence over the victim of such a crime. So yes, it's more of power and control. And then because if you have power and you have control over someone else, the tendency to exploit that privilege is always there.
Okay, legally now, do you think as a nation we are really doing our best to curb this issue that is spreading like a wildfire?
We haven't done our best, but are we doing better? Yes. I can't say we've done our best because our laws are still backwards. We still have a lot of legal reforms to do. We still have a lot in terms of getting the judiciary to sit on these cases and dispense of them quickly so that justice is served in such circumstances. We still have laws that put a limitation on sexual-based offenses, gender-based offenses. We have laws that even encourage some of these violent acts, carried against individuals. So no, we haven't done our best. I will not say so. Are we doing better? Yes, I would say we're doing better, because now that there's a conversation around the issue, you find that even our representatives politically are beginning to speak up about it. We find even religious leaders are beginning to talk about it. They are now seeing the need to discuss sexual issues, gender rights in sermons, in the political houses, the House of Assembly, the House of Reps, the Senate. You find that even the press is beginning to stir up conversations around it by carrying out campaigns on radio, on TV, and all the other forms of media outlets. So yes, we're doing better, because generally once there's a conversation around an issue, you're going to influence social change, behavioral change. You find that the society will begin to frown at these things, and if we had apologists in our midst, they will begin to shrink and hide, and then the environment which has been conducive for this sexual and gender violence perpetrators is now no longer business as usual for them. They are now more conscious, and then the tendency is that they're going to restrain themselves from carrying out such hideous acts.
Okay, now let's talk about the victims of maybe gender-based violence. Yeah. What would you have them do? Because some of them are still hiding, maybe because they feel some people won't believe them. And looking at it for like children that are prone to this form of abuse, I mean battery and even rape, what would you have them do at this point in time that they don't have? As you said earlier, power is one of the things that is really control and power also. How would they as children stand up for themselves in times like this?
Okay, so in terms of getting justice, there are different levels to it. Someone who is a victim of sexual or gender-based violence that dies in the process, there's not much you can do for them because they are no longer alive. But now it is left for the system to fight on their behalf to make sure that they didn't die for nothing. And that's where you have the police and then the courts and the laws coming into play. So for them, all we can do is maybe reform our laws and make sure that the police is more sensitive and more dedicated to investigating and going through the whole process of investigation, filing a complaint, and prosecuting to the very finish some of these cases. So that's on the one hand. For those who were violated and are still living, you can give them medical attention when it happens recently. You make sure that they go to a government hospital. I'm stressing government because that's what our law says. It does not recognize taking, especially if you want to build a case. It's not just that you want the person to be treated. If you want to follow through with a case later on, you must take the person to a government hospital. He or she will be examined by a doctor who will record, the presence of, signs that this person has actually been violated, and then the report will be there to lean on when it finally gets to court or when the police are taking charge. Another thing you can do is go to the police station, report, and they will take you to the hospital so that they're there, they're present when it is done, they know that there's no form of tampering and all that. So that's one aspect for medical aspect. There's also the need for counseling because these people need to heal. When you injure somebody physically, you see a wound, but emotionally you won't see that wound, but the person is dealing with pain, dealing with hurt, the thoughts of revenge or the thoughts of trying to commit suicide and all that. The person is helpless at that point, so the person needs a lot of counseling so that they will psychologically heal as well as physically heal. Another aspect of it is you make sure that you support the person moving forward, and then because they're going to have traumatic, behaviors manifest over time. Like there's the possibility of suspicion, there's the possibility of not trusting people and all that. So these are things that you take time to walk through with the person as a friend now, or as a family member. Believing a victim is very important to their healing process. Now, for those who have been victims long before we're having this conversation now, what do they seek to achieve? A lot of them want to be heard. Being heard is therapeutic. So once they are heard, some of them begin to heal. Once they know that they've been able to voice out this injustice that they've suffered, they tend to, calm down and begin to heal properly. So yes, there's several aspects to this. Now, for children, we have a culture that tends to silence children. We tend not to believe them. Oh, they're children. What do they know? What are they saying? I tell people a lot that you should listen to a child. Show them that you believe them so that you can build trust. Then you can investigate. If you have any doubts, investigate and make sure that what they are saying is not just out of the blue. Or children are generally not malicious. They don't, try to mar you or to pull you down by beginning to utter certain things that are derogatory. So oftentimes they are right. Something would have happened and they would have interpreted it in the way that they're telling you. It is now your duty to believe them. Another thing is make them comfortable to discuss their genitals with you. Call the parts of the body by their real names. A breast, a penis, a vagina, buttocks or bum bum, as you say it. Let them be able to talk to you about activities surrounding that area. Teach them to know the difference between affectionate touch and sexual touch. An adult can hug them affectionately. Then there's hugging that will make them uncomfortable, that has crossed the line towards being sexual. So they need to know the difference. They need to know that, okay, mommy or daddy can bath you and wash your bum bum, wash your penis, wash your vagina. Okay? But then it's not acceptable for your teacher or a random adult to begin to touch those areas of your body. We need to be honest with them, and we need to get them to trust us and speak to us honestly about these issues.
With the final thought, let us take on the legal angle. I was talking to someone of recent, and she was telling me that if it happened to her, she will not go and report because she knows that maybe he spends 1 year or 2 years in jail, and that's all. He comes out, and you see that the guilt, her conscience will not want to see the person, and she want to relocate. And she was just telling me some things, and I was just okay. What is there any law on ground that speaks strongly against gender-based violence?
Well, yes, we have the criminal code, which is obtainable and in operation in the southern part of Nigeria. We have the penal code, which operates in the northern part. We have Violence Against Persons Act, which is currently in operation in Abuja. We have Lagos State, they have their criminal code and their criminal laws, which are they are obtainable. They work in those areas. So there are several laws. Now, punishment differs from law to law. So it depends on what law the person is being charged. Sometimes even the Child Rights Act comes into play. So it all depends on the nature of the offense and under what law the criminal is being charged. So yes, there are laws that are stronger in terms of punishment. There are laws that are weaker in terms of punishment. So it all boils down to the prosecutor and what law they are charging the offender under.
Okay, that's from a barrister here with us. Okay, just finally, let us get your final thoughts. What do you have to say to anyone maybe facing any form of violence, gender-based violence, as we are discussing?
To anyone facing any form of sexual violence or gender-based violence, the first step to getting yourself out of that situation and to getting yourself justice is to speak up about it. Speak to people who can help you. because if you keep it within you, it eats you up, and then you would not get the help that you deserve. So be courageous to speak up about it. And even when people don't believe you, you would have satisfied your conscience that you raised alarm on something that was making you uncomfortable. Also, look out for people that make you uncomfortable and stay clear of them. Look out for people who patronize high levels of sexism, people who abuse drugs, people who are diabolical, because such people tend to patronize sexual myths and gender violence culture. So as much as possible, try to make sure that you're in a safe space. A lot of times you don't have control of these things, but you can do the barest minimum to ensure that you're not in the path of such offenders or such perpetrators.
Okay, thank you very much for joining us on the episode today, and we really enjoy your company here with us on the studio, in the studio. Okay, guys, this is how much we'll take today on this episode. Do well to join us next episode. Don't forget to press the subscribe button to this YouTube channel, and also let's get your comments and your questions. Also, I trust she's still very much around. If you have any question you want to ask, you could send it, and we'll be able to get to hand the responses. Her response rather would be contacted to you. Okay, say well. I'll say you should stay safe. Don't just live anyhow. You get, speak up. You better speak up. You need to speak up. Thank you very much. We say bye for now.